I appraise the worth of my ideals and my experiences based on value. I am who I like to call a valuist. See, the more things change, the more they stay the same. A lesson I learned at my father's breakfast table, demonstrated by something that I, like many of you seated here, have enjoyed for years. Blue Band. I'd like to share a little story. A year ago at a global webinar, the icebreaker was for representatives from the different countries to share what their favorite breakfast meal was. And being a small town girl, I had the most interesting things on people's lists. Croissants, crepes, which I'm told are pancakes wannabe, by the way. Breakfast burritos. See, this thing has a whole national day, and yet this was the first time I was hearing about it. So when my turn came, I said bread with blue band on it, accompanied by masala tea. And to complicate it, because they had complicated my life with this croissant business, I said, not just any kind of masala tea, not the kind you find in a tea bag. Masala tea brewed to perfection with ginger and lemongrass. Nakailiki kwa mbali. But I digress. It's the spread on the bread I'd like to focus on. Now, the fact that I have spent the first few minutes of this talk talking about breakfast, you must have figured it out by now. Breakfast is, and has always been, my favorite meal of the day. But one thing does stand out. I remember very vividly, as a 6-year-old, sitting at my father's breakfast table, enjoying my bread with blue band on it at breakfast. See, in the household where I grew up, this didn't happen too often. It was either on Christmas morning or, like clockwork, on the 11th morning of every month. It took me a while to realize that that was because my father, who back then was a junior civil servant, earned his salary on the 10th. See, in the little neighborhood where I grew up, having blue band at your table was a sign of what we would call today kufika. 30 years on, as a grown, successful in my own right woman, I still thoroughly enjoy blue band on my bread. Some would argue that that is me trying to keep up with kufika as it was sold to me by my childhood experiences. But I disagree. It still makes me feel exactly the same way. Nothing much has changed. Actually, a lot has stayed the same, all except for one thing: the size of the blue band receptacle at the breakfast table. See, my father, he afforded us the glorious blue band ya kadogo, the star of this conversation, while my table is graced by blue band kubwa. The reason I call it the glorious kadogo is because of its ability, in its small size, to consistently deliver the same value without fail at my father's breakfast table 30 years ago as it does at mine today. That, despite the fact that my current income status and the income status of my father 30 years ago are at complete opposites of any spectrum. Size. A word far too long sold to us as a reflection of our ambition, our success, our growth, and our worth. As children, we are propagated to be achievers. And then the world clamors, and in loud voices, might I add. Achievers have all things big. Your house, that has got to be big. Dare we label you successful and you fail to honor our admiration by buying a fuel-guzzling big car? How dare you? Also, right in front of your first name, you need a big title. Actually, in the community where I come from, we have taken this a tad too far. When we name our children, more so our firstborn sons, their first name, it's a title. Dr. Festus Ogada. That is my brother's real name. Now, I know it's funny, but in my opinion, it is such mannerisms that label us as a society that quietly imprisons its offspring to be fixated on size right from the get-go. Because who are you if you cannot even live up to your first name? But my mother, she disagrees. She calls this manifesting. She has told the universe exactly what she wants for her son. Bigger is better, they tell us. Everything big is glorified. Yes, everything. But what Blueband demonstrated at my father's breakfast table, that's as a result of switching the size lens for a value lens. It is what we in private health sector like to call the kadogo economy. Kadogo is a Swahili word that translates to the word small. When the word kadogo is used, it is meant to reference, with fondness, something or someone that is smaller than what is deemed acceptable or even normal. One might say, a downsized version. Kadogo is a very strategic approach. It seeks to diminish size while allowing more individuals to be able to enjoy the value of your product or your solution or your service. How, you might ask? Number one, seek to understand the value that incentivizes your target consumer to be willing to pay for your product. As you know by now, I, Maureen, enjoy Blueband on my bread at breakfast. That is value to this consumer. Number two, harness that value. Number three, package that value into receptacles of different tailored sizes. Big, medium, small, and of course, kadogo. Results? You have downsized, and yet you have undoubtedly transcended wealth divides by introducing different price points. This lesson learned at my father's breakfast table. How does it apply to something as critical as healthcare? What would happen if we were to intentionally apply the principle of kadogo in health? What would happen if we understood that the size of a health facility is not a reflection of the quality of services offered within it? What if we begin to appreciate that people should not have to go long distances for healthcare services just because as a society we are fixated to it being delivered within large buildings? Tell me, what would be the use if you were to die on your way to the world's largest hospital? Your size mindset? It's currently telling you that kadogo is a concept that befits fast-moving consumer goods, like Blueband. It's probably telling you that, it would be ridiculous to try this for healthcare. And it's probably trying to convince you that for services as critical as healthcare, without a doubt, quality is proportional to square footage. Well, that size mindset, it is wrong. Kadogo is a concept that is not new to Tanzania's health system. Switching the size lens for a value lens has in the past 7 years resulted in Tanzania's health enterprise, and specifically private health enterprise, setting up 260 square foot health outlets. Where? In rural and semi-urban Tanzania, exactly where these services are needed. These outlets, popularly known as ADOs, they deliver health information and efficient referral services. Most importantly, they deliver life-saving health commodities to those most at need. These Kadogo outlets, they are an entry point into the health system to up to 75% of our rural population. Did I say that standing at 13,000 and growing, these outlets offer the largest health outlet footprint that this country has ever seen? Earlier, I had talked about the ability of Kadogo to transcend. Well, ADOs have transcended wealth divides, allowing men like my father to be able to afford the efficiencies of private health services for themselves and their families. ADOs have transcended geographical divides. 80% of these outlets are located in rural Tanzania. ADOs have transcended gender divides. 80% of these outlets are owned by women, and up to 40% are women-run. I might even say that ADOs have righted the wrongs that society made. Dr. Festus Ogada. Guess what they call him each time he stands behind that counter? Daktari. Boss, tumefika. Behold the Kadogo effect. Our society today, we are fixated on big. If it is big, it is meant to make me happy. If it is big, I am meant to resonate towards it. If it is big, I am expected to derive pleasure off of it. Well, unfortunately for you and I, to evolve is to grow. Not in size, but in value. Embracing the importance and worth of ideals and experiences. See, I am not propagating the thought that we should think small. By all means, think big, dream big. In my mother's words, manifest. Win as individuals even. But if we are to truly evolve, and when I say us, I mean all of us, for this generation to truly embody regeneration, we must stop falling in love with size. When we embrace the value mindset, the pedestal that is size, it diminishes, and more people stand to benefit. Thank you.